Good afternoon, everyone. It's an exciting day here at the Amway Center. We would ask everyone to please take their seats so that we can get our program underway. I will start by saying that this is definitely the biggest crowd that we've had for a Magic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So with that, welcome to the 2022 Magic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We are proud to have two incredible inductees into this year's Hall of Fame that we're going to spend some time talking about here shortly. Before we get started, I want to recognize representatives from our DeVos family ownership group. They're in the back of the room there. Please say hello to Ryan and Michelle DeVos. Wave to everyone. Thank you for being with us. This is always one of my favorite days of the year, and I would have to say that this particular Hall of Fame ceremony, if I can keep myself together today, is especially personal to me because of the two individuals that we're going to induct today. Our Magic Hall of Fame started as part of our 25th anniversary celebration, which was an opportunity that we determined as an organization to honor those who have contributed to our franchise. And the Hall of Fame takes place right here in the Neutral Light Magic Fan Experience. And behind me are those that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame in the past. And we'd like to recognize them, if I may turn around for a moment. Pat Williams, Nick Anderson, Shaquille O'Neal, Rich DeVos, Anthony Hardaway, Jimmy Hewitt, Tracy McGrady, David Steele, and Darrell Armstrong. For those of you who have been around our organization for the last 30 plus years, obviously legends in Magic history. We do have a criteria for acceptance and enshrinement into the Magic Hall of Fame, which include an individual's on-court performance and success while with the Magic, as well as the team's success while they were with us. Years of service to the organization, impact and importance to the franchise, an individual's off-court impact in the Central Florida community, which you know is incredibly important to our organization and to the DeVos family. We're excited today to induct our two newest members into the Magic Hall of Fame, both who are intertwined with the history of the franchise and the success that this franchise has seen over the last 30 plus years. With both of their leadership, we not only reached our first NBA Finals in 1995, but they both continue to use their skills and guidance in helping us in executive advisor roles with the organization today. We are proud to induct them together, and it's so fitting that they do come in to the Magic Hall of Fame together. Our first inductee into the 2022 Magic Hall of Fame is John Gabriel. John has been with the Orlando Magic organization for a total of 19 seasons and 21 years. He was brought to Orlando at the time by Pat Williams to help build the Magic in 1987. He served in various roles within the organization, including Director of Player Personnel, Director of Scouting, and Assistant Coach. In January of 1994, John was named Vice President of Basketball Operations and Player Personnel, and then was promoted to General Manager on April 29th, 1996, staying in that role until March of 2004. His formula for success involved die-hard dedication, never-ending enthusiasm, hard work, and to coin his phrase, heart and hustle. He was responsible for building the Magic roster that went to the 1995 NBA Finals, when the organization had only been in existence for just 6 years in the NBA, one of the fastest organizations to get to the NBA Finals. During his first tenure with the Magic, Orlando posted 11 consecutive seasons with an over 500 record from 1992 to 2003, while making 8 trips to the NBA Finals during that time. John was the then architect of the relaunching of the Magic, making 55 transactions involving 51 different players from June the 14th, 1999 until August the 15th of 2000. Just over a year, 51 different players and 55 total transactions. He also acquired perhaps the most important free agent at that time, during that summer signing Doc Rivers as the team's head coach. Rivers went on to win the NBA's Coach of the Year award in 1999 and 2000, while John himself was named the NBA Executive of the Year that year. During the summer of 2000, John spearheaded the signing of 2 of the most coveted free agents available in 5-time NBA All-Star Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady, who became an All-NBA First-Team member in 2001-2002 and 2002-2003, and a 2-time NBA scoring champion. Today, John serves as an executive advisor to the Magic's Basketball Operations Department, continuing to provide his invaluable insight on a daily basis. Please help me welcome to the Magic Hall of Fame, John Gabriel.
I don't know if you saw it, but Alex leaned into me and said, if we can bring all these people together to buy tickets next year, you'll put me in again. So I'll have 2 trophies. It's needless to say, it's an honor to be here and receive this award in front of so many people I love and respect. I'm grateful for all of you that have traveled so far. It's an extra bonus for me to come into the Hall of Fame with one of my best friends and colleague, Brian Hill. Way to go, B. Way to go. I am, because of this Parkinson's baloney, I am capable of a brain-heart malfunction, though it's important to me that I speak from the heart. So bear with me. 60 years ago today, a guy by the name of Wilt Chamberlain, who played for the Philadelphia basketball team, scored 100 points in one game. He had 30 rebounds and took 25 free throws. A man took his youngest son and his 2 older brothers to Hershey to see the game, not knowing what he was going to see. That man was Frank Gabriel Sr. And I was his son, his youngest son. I guess that's my love affair with the orange ball started, I guess you could say. It seems like yesterday I was an ambitious, cutting the lawn guy with my own business, working for my brother Frank at the racetrack at night, But the special part of the day was my stop at the Point Diner, where my sister lives nearby. I would call the 76ers office in a hope and dream to join them in some capacity. Finally, I got the call, not on my cell phone, they didn't exist. At home, finally I would get the call. And I stopped at mid-cut to set up a meeting with Pat Williams, John Nash, and Matty Gukas. I cleaned up, loaded the trailer on my 64 Ford pickup, tied everything down, headed out on the Atlantic City Expressway. As I neared the Walt Whitman Bridge, I got a little nervous and said a prayer that my only broom didn't fly out the back and land in the Delaware River. I got my first break doing what others wouldn't or couldn't do. I worked in the box office and moved myself into the basketball operations department, where I worked with videotapes, scouting, both college and pro, sat on the bench, and wrote commercials on the side for the team. 5 years would pass, and a call would come again, from this time from Pat Williams in Florida, asking me to come down to potentially interview for a job. I guess he thought in Philly I was a jack of all trades, but with that comes a master of none. There was no team, no arena, no wins or losses. Everything had yet to come. A lot of change took place in my life. Goodbye to Philly. And it probably made my best transaction in my life. The first thing I did is, before I moved south, was to marry the love of my life, a girl from the suburbs of Philadelphia, and the assistant who answered my call with the Sixers, Dorothy Summers Gabriel. Babe, you showed me the way then, you show me the way now. All in all, I feel like the same guy from Hanover, Pennsylvania, a small town on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland. I went to a high school in a nearby town. It was small. It wasn't at the end of the earth, but you could see it from there. It was made up of a community of caring, hardworking folks that I'm proud to call my friends. And there I started to play basketball under my coach in high school. They say the impact on one's life by a great coach is immeasurable. It's a relationship that will last a lifetime. That coach for me was and still is Jim Livelsberger. Thanks, Jim. Life has a way of throwing you a curveball when you least expect it. Because rule number one is you can always depend on one thing, change. For me, it would be sitting at home with Darth on the couch, reading of all things a Michael J. Fox People article, when I noticed my ring finger starting to quiver. I said, oh no, not me. It's the first time I prayed for a small cyst on my spine, or something somewhat removable. For me, I took the time to be diagnosed, and I spent about 3 months being mad at God. Then I realized, all in all, it wasn't a death sentence. So I thought, I wonder if I have any platform left in the city to help raise money for Parkinson's Association. So I joined PACF, who are here tonight, and we raised money to go to research, Advent Health, and caregivers. My friends at the Magic are quite kind to me. They quite often will ask, Gabe, what can I do to help you? And I'll say, do me one big favor, treat me like everybody else. You see, I'm still a husband to my wife, still a father to my children, still a colleague and friend to my colleagues. And I'm actually still a pretty good basketball player. What's so funny? I'll take anybody out there right now, one-on-one. But you got to be over 60 and have Parkinson's. In closing, I'd like to thank Alex for allowing me to ride shotgun with basketball operations, and John Hammond and Jeff Weltman and this basketball operations staff. To the DeVosses, who had trusted in me a long time ago and still do. Know that it's not lost on me that we work for the finest owners in all pro sports industry. For the players that inspired us. For my family, my brother, Pat, and Frank, and my sister, Mary, thank you for your support. And last but not least, my loving family. I just read Michael J. Fox's last book, and I have a short quote that I want to share that's close to me. For every awkward moment, there are times when time just slips away, because I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in life. You see, for me, it all comes down to being grateful. I face each day locked in on gratitude. I have to, because with that gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, I can savor the life I had and the life I have yet to come. Thank you. God bless.
Love you. You know, I said at the outset, this is one of my favorite days of the year to recognize many of the individuals who I personally have had the opportunity to work alongside over the last 30 plus years. And today is a personally very special day for me as well, because both Gabe and Brian put their arm around me as a young sports executive in the early 90s, helped me learn the ropes, and I would just say that I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for both of them, so thank you very much. Our next inductee into the 2022 Magic Hall of Fame is Brian Hill. Brian served as head coach of the Orlando Magic from 1993 to 97, and again from 2005 to 2007, netting him 267 wins, which to this day is still the most by any head coach in Magic franchise history. Brian joined the Magic in 1990 as an assistant to Matt Gukas. He was promoted to head coach on June the 30th, 1993, and the impact that he had on the Magic team was immediate. During Brian's time as head coach of the Magic, Orlando reached the playoffs 4 times, including the first postseason berth in franchise history in 1993-94. He captured 2 division titles in 1994-95 and 1995-96. And made 2 Eastern Conference Finals appearances in 1995 and 96, and earned a trip to the NBA Finals in 1995. He guided the team to a franchise record 60 wins during the 1995-96 season, a record that still stands today. From March 21st, 1995 to March 19th, 1996, Brian also led the Magic to 40 consecutive home wins. 40 consecutive home wins. At the time, setting an NBA record. And I can remember every time we walked in the gym, we knew we were going to win, for sure. He was named the NBA's Eastern Conference Coach of the Month in November 2006, and was head coach of the Eastern Conference at the 1995 NBA All-Star Game. Brian also currently serves as an executive advisor to the Magic's Basketball Operations Department, a position that he's held since 2018, and is in his 9th season as a pregame and postgame analyst and halftime for Orlando Magic games on Bally Sports, Florida. Please join me in welcoming the newest member of the Magic Hall of Fame, Brian Hill.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Alex. I'm not nearly as eloquent as my friend, Mr. Gabriel. So forgive me if I ramble on here a little bit. Obviously grateful for this honor today. And all you really have to do is look at the names behind me of the players that I had the opportunity to coach, and you'll understand why I'm standing up here in front of you today. We had some great players here in Orlando during my time as head coach, and no coach in this league would be ultimately successful without having good players. So to all of them, all of the former players that I had the opportunity to coach, my heartfelt thanks, and reach out to all of you with my appreciation for getting me up here today. I knew at an early age that I wanted to be a basketball coach. I had an older brother, Fred, who was a very successful coach and was my mentor as a young coach, a young athlete, and helped me get to where I am today. He was 13 years older than me, so I leaned on him quite a bit for his experience and his expertise in coaching. He's in more Hall of Fames than I can count on my hand, and I'm obviously eternal grateful to him for leading me into this profession. And he was obviously the biggest influence on my life in becoming a coach. I also want to thank my high school coach, Bill Hogan, who could not be here today. As a high school player, had a great influence on me and taught me the importance of hard work and attention to detail. Unlike most coaches today, I started as a high school coach for 3 years, a college coach for 14 years, and then 27 years in the NBA. And I'm grateful to all of those people along the way. As a high school coach, I learned a lot from the gentlemen that I worked under. As a college coach, head coach at Lehigh University for 9 years, 3 years at Penn State. I started at Montclair State University in New Jersey, and grateful to Ollie Gelston and Bruce Parkhill, two coaches that I worked under, that I learned a great deal from, that helped me also get here today. When I was at Lehigh, especially, I had assistant coaches that helped me tremendously. One of them here today, my nephew Fred Hill, but a gentleman by the name of Frank Sullivan, who later became the head coach for 17 years at Harvard University, and a gentleman by the name of Sal Mentasana, who ultimately followed me at Lehigh University. And I owe a great deal to those guys and learned a great deal working with them along the way also. My introduction to the NBA came from a very good friend. I left Penn State in 1986 and was hired by Mike Fratello. Mike hasn't been in coaching for a while now, but you might know him as the czar of the telestrator, working for TNT and assorted stations throughout his career after coaching. Mike brought me on as an assistant with the Atlanta Hawks when they were in their prime, having just come off a 50-win season, and Mike being named NBA Coach of the Year. And I spent 4 years there working for Mike. And it was probably my greatest lesson, because when I came in, that's where I learned the NBA. I worked as an advanced scout. I worked as, I completely was responsible for the NBA draft for the 2 years that I was there, and along with trying to be a bench assistant when I could be in town. And that was really where I learned the league and what it was all about. So I'm eternally grateful to Mike and all the people also associated with the Atlanta Hawks. '90 rolled around, and I should back up. One of my duties as handling the NBA draft, I had to go to Hawaii, and I know you think that's hard work. But at that time, that's where they held the combine that they have today. It was held in Hawaii for all the college players, the top college players wanting to go into the NBA draft. And a guy by the name of, and we had about 2 hours off, and I figured, let me get out to the beach here and see if I can just relax a little bit. You're filling out paperwork and evaluating players. And a guy by the name of John Gabriel pulled me aside and interrupted my 2 hours on the beach by asking me about 1,000 questions about how we do things in Atlanta, how do you do things in advanced scouting, how do you do things for the draft, what are your practices like, what's it like working for Mike Fratello. All I wanted to do was get a little bit of sunshine, and this guy starts bending my ear for 2 hours out on the beach. But that was the start of a relationship, and I'm sure that had something to do with me ultimately coming here to Orlando. I got the opportunity to come here as an assistant to Matt Gukas, and the one thing that I wanted to experience, I had been a head coach, I had worked for coaches that had never played in the NBA. I felt the next step that I needed to take was to work for a coach that was coaching in the NBA but had played in the NBA also, because they think a little bit differently, a little bit outside the box on how they want to treat their players during the course of the season. So I'm grateful to Matt for taking me on as an assistant coach. John Gabriel, I got to work with. Pat Williams was the president of the team at that time. I'm grateful to Pat and Gabe for all the guidance that they gave me through those years, and Matty working together to help build the franchise. And then in 1993, I was offered the opportunity to be the head coach of the team. And the year before, a guy came along by the name of Shaquille O'Neal. And that kind of changed the fortunes of the franchise from that point on. Right before that, the DeVos family took over as owners of the team, and that was probably an even bigger change in the fortunes of the team at that time. I think Gabe echoed his sentiments, and I can honestly say that I have never been associated with a better ownership group than the DeVos family, and especially Mr. DeVos and Mrs. DeVos, who are no longer with us. I'm very blessed to have coached that team, as you can tell by the names behind me: Shaquille O'Neal, Nick Anderson, Penny Hardaway, Darrell Armstrong. Darrell was just kind of starting out at that time, but was the integral piece of that heart and hustle team that Gabe referred to. And as I said, I owe a lot to the players that I had the opportunity to coach. Shortly after that, Pat Williams and John Gabriel probably made another life-altering decision for this franchise, and that was in the NBA draft to make the decision to draft Chris Webber, but then trade him for Penny Hardaway, and I think Pat asked for 5 or 6 first-round draft picks, and I think we ended up with 3 of them. So that was obviously Penny Hardaway and 3 first-round draft picks for Chris Webber. Is to me, one of the biggest steals in NBA history. And that was really what catapulted us to move on as an elite team in the NBA. Alex mentioned the success we had, and as I said, I feel very blessed to have coached that team. Along with those players, I'd be remiss not to mention the assistant coaches that I worked with, Tree Rollins, Richie Adebato, and Tom Sterner, who I believe is here today. Tom is kind of known as the godfather of video in the NBA and was doing analytics for our team before anybody ever knew what analytics was. All the information that's handed out to teams today, we were getting 30 years ago from Tom and his computer, because he was the only guy that knew how to work a computer at that time. So my sincere appreciation to Tom and those assistant coaches. Working with Gabe as a general manager was the easiest, I think, work relationship that any head coach could ask for, because all the decisions we made were made together. There was never any blindsiding or, all of a sudden a player is traded that was one of your best players or favorite players and you're bringing somebody else in. Gabe was always considerate to talk every possible move out that we could make as a team, before moving on and making that move, and finding out together what our thoughts were of whether any move we made would make us better, would help us as a basketball team. And I can honestly say I've worked probably with two of the best general managers in NBA history, in John Gabriel and Rod Thorne, who's no longer in the NBA, but for a long time was the GM of the New Jersey Nets. To have the opportunity to work under Mr. DeVos was an incredible honor, and I think our players would agree. Anytime Mr. DeVos came into the room, you could hear a pin drop, and you knew that he was going to say something incredibly intelligent and very profound. And when he walked out of the room, you felt like you had just been to a seminar with one of the brightest people you had ever spoke to. As I mentioned, an incredible owner, but more importantly, an incredible human being. And dealing with the family members down from Rich and Helen, all of his children and the grandchildren, I can assure you that this franchise is in unbelievable hands. I didn't think I'd be up here today because I'm the only coach that's also been fired by this organization twice. So I wasn't sure if I'd ever make it. But obviously I'm extremely grateful. And actually the second time I came back, I think was, I got the opportunity to coach some more future Hall of Famers in Dwight Howard, Grant Hill, Hito Turkoglu, some outstanding players. To name all of them would be impossible for me to do. But we got the team back to the playoffs after a 3-year absence, and hopefully laid the foundation for some of the later success that team was able to accomplish. In every organization and in every endeavor in life, you develop lifelong relationships. And obviously, as Alex alluded to, with continuing to work on as an advisor to basketball, to work for the TV, I have to, my condolences to Paul Kennedy, to Dante Marchitelli, to Ty Eastham for putting up with my blunders on TV for the last 9 years. But also the opportunity to work with them and David Steele and Jeff Turner on the TV side. It has obviously been a blessing the past 9 years. I get asked a couple of questions almost constantly. The first one about the pressures of the job. And I always answered the same way. There was never pressure, because when something is your passion and you go into every day trying to do the best you can at that particular job, there is no pressure. It's what you love doing, and you go to work loving it every day and trying to prepare your team to win every game, to win every practice, and to accomplish great things for the organization. So I never looked at it as pressure. And they always ask what the greatest achievement was, but to me, my greatest achievement is my family. My son, Chris, his wife, Paige, my grandson, Hayes, our daughter, Kim, who can't be with us today. She's currently in Houston, about ready to undergo a surgery, and if I could ask anything, it would be for everybody to keep her in your prayers. And then my wife, Kay. Coaching is a job that takes you away from your family a lot. You miss some of the most important events in the life of your children and your family because of your obligations to coach, to travel, to scout, all the different things that you have to do to recruit. You know, the 14 years I was in college, you miss a lot of opportunities. And Kay was the person that held the family together through that entire time period. So she's the real MVP of the family. And I hate to admit it, but this is my first Hall of Fame induction, so I'm still 2 behind my wife, who's been inducted into 3 different Hall of Fames for her track and field prowess as a youth. So at least I can say that I finally made one. In closing, I'd just like to say it's been an incredible ride, the lifelong relationships in and out of basketball, in the organization, and particularly with Alex. I'd be remiss not to thank the people, along with all the players, that had a great deal to do with those early successes. Lenny Currier, our trainer, the infamous Sid Powell, our equipment manager, who handles just about everything in this organization, our strength coaches, all the people, all the support staff that helped us be successful through those years. Basketball has given me the opportunity to work with Hall of Fame players, compete against Hall of Fame coaches, a trip to the NBA Finals, coach in 2 All-Star games, travel around the world to coach and teach the game of basketball. And I've always been eternally grateful for that, and more so eternally grateful to this organization for the way they have treated me and my family throughout the years. And being here in Orlando and associated with the Orlando Magic is something that I can honestly look back on and say are the best and proudest years of my life. And I want to thank Alex for allowing me to stay involved with the organization and the DeVos ownership group as an advisor and as a TV personality. So thank you all for this wonderful event, for this wonderful induction. And all I can say in closing is I'm honored and I'm humbled. Thank you very much.
How about one more round of applause for the 2est members of the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame, John Gabriel and Brian Hill. We want to thank you all for being here with us for this very special day. We hope that you'll be joining us for our game tonight against the Indiana Pacers, where we will also honor John and Brian during the first quarter intermission at center court. And we look forward to doing that in front of our fans as well. We're going to take a few photos up here with their pedestals, and then we welcome you all afterwards to join us in taking pictures with Brian and Gabe, with your families, etc. So once again, thank you all for being here. Congratulations, Gabe. Congratulations, Brian. And we look forward to seeing you all tonight when the Magic beat the Indiana Pacers. Thanks very much.